On episode 254 of the 40 Plus Fitness podcast, we meet Dr. Richard Beliveau and discuss his book, Foods to Fight Cancer. You can find the full show notes for this episode at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/254. Have you decided you're ready to make a change? To reclaim your health and fitness? The 40 Plus Fitness podcast is here for you. I'm your host, Alan Meisner. I'm an NSAM certified personal trainer with a specialization in corrective exercise and fitness nutrition. Let me be your coach as you find your way on your health and fitness journey. All right, let's go. Thank you for joining me today here on 40 Plus Fitness. I wanted to make a general announcement. I've been doing this show for quite some time now, a little over 16 months, and we're already past 250 episodes, and I'm pretty excited about that. I think we've put out a lot of great content, a lot of great information. You can go back and check the archives at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com, and pretty much just about anything in health and fitness that you're interested in. I think you can go back and find something on it. And if you don't, well, please do send me an email and let me know so I can start looking for something that will address whatever issue you're really interested in. But that said, it really is time consuming to find the guests, book the guests, get everything scheduled, set up the interviews, read the books, and then put together a show, have the interview, get it produced, get the show notes done, and put all of that out there on a consistent basis. And I'm very proud that I've been really, really consistent. I think I've missed 2 days in that whole time, and that was because I was sick. Recently I got sick again, and that kind of put me behind. But fortunately, I was already ahead a little bit, which really helped me kind of keep up a little with this. But that said, as I kind of looked at it and asked myself, okay, why am I getting sick for the second time in 6 months? And, what's going on with all that? And what's going on with my life? And, doing it 3 times a week is really, really too much for me at this point in time. It's too much physically for me to do the work. Even though I do outsource the audio production and the show notes, it's just really been kind of taxing on me to get that done. And then, of course, the cost, because I do pay those individuals to do the show notes, to do the audio. And so, it is quite expensive to run things here, even though the equipment is not really all that expensive. The day-to-day of running this is pretty expensive. And so that all said, I don't want to stop podcasting, and I definitely won't stop podcasting as long as I can do this physically. I'll be doing this. But I am going to cut this back to once per week starting in June. And so I will focus on getting the best guests I can get. This will allow me to kind of weed out a little bit, make sure I'm getting the highest quality guests possible. It'll also help me because a lot of my guests, they've got a book coming out, obviously. They want their book promoted right around the time they're releasing the book. That's when it gives them the best bang for the buck to try to make the bestseller list. So I think cutting it down to once per week will allow me the flexibility to schedule these out in a way where I'm releasing the episodes in a way that the guests will enjoy even more. And I think because I'll be cutting down to 1 per week, I'll be able to do slightly deeper dives into some of these topics. I don't see the episodes going much longer than they are, but I do see the opportunity for us to touch on more points during the interview and kind of get a little bit deeper on some of the points that we're covering. That I just really right now haven't had the opportunity to really plan out as well as I would like. So I am going to cut down starting in June to just 1 per week. Again, there'll be good episodes. And I wanted to open up something else to you before we get into this episode is if you have a question, feel free to ask me. You can email me that question. You can message me on Facebook. You can ask in the Facebook group at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/group. And I'll be glad to answer it there in at least to the point of the basics. And if it's a good question that I think would be valuable to the folks on the podcast, then I'll do that question probably at the beginning of most of the episodes. I'll I'll try to put in some questions, particularly if they're relevant to the topic we're talking about. And if I get a good many of them, I might even throw in a couple bonus episodes here and there where I just go through the process of answering your questions. So if you have some questions, feel free to send them to me. You can send them at my email, which is 40plusfitnesspodcast at gmail.com. Again, that's 40plusfitnesspodcast at gmail.com. Email me your questions, and I'll be glad to research them if I need to. Either maybe in some cases find the guest, the author that's written a book on it, to try to get them on the show so we can really deep dive into your topic. But generally, I want to make sure that I'm delivering the right content in the right quality, in the right quantity. Most podcasts go once a week, and it's been quite a challenge for me to keep up with 3 times per week for a while now. And I'm going to drop it down to 1, and I think that's going to be much more sustainable for all of us. Our guest today is the director of the Molecular Medicine Laboratory and researcher in the Department of Neurosurgery at Notre Dame Hospital. He also holds the Claude Bertrand Chair at the University of Montreal Hospital. Here is Dr. Richard Beliveau. So, Dr. Beliveau, welcome to 40 Plus Fitness.
Thank you.
You know, your book, Foods to Fight Cancer, I really enjoyed the read. But I think more than anything else, it was the diagrams and images in the book that really just kind of made things a lot easier for me to not only absorb, but I think really understand in a way that I wouldn't have understood. You know, you can say percentages or you can say that, but kind of having that visual of what that actually means and what that looks like, I just think was so valuable. And I really enjoyed going through the book, and I learned quite a bit.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. We put a lot of effort into it to, as you say, to illustrate, because it's a complex issue. Cancer is a complex disease. It's multifactorial. People have a lot of misconception about it, and we wanted to get things straight. And the way to get things straight is people to understand, So we have to start at the basic level, show the population studies, what cancer is. Cancer is a disease of the cell, so we have to talk about how it develops, and I think it fits all together quite well.
Yeah. Now, I think one of the things that kind of hit me early on in the book, that was a misconception that I had, was that I thought cancer is more of this. Well, if your grandfather and father had a certain cancer, you're more than likely to get that cancer. But in reading your book, it really makes up such a small percentage of the total causal factors. Yeah. Can you kind of explain what does cause cancer?
Yeah. First, we have to remember cancer is a genetic disease. It's caused by genes that are mutated. But we have to make the distinction between genetic disease and hereditary disease. Cancer is a genetic disease caused by mutation in genes, but very few of these genes are transmitted by the parents. This would be an hereditary disease. So basically, cancer, the risk factor for cancer are as identified by the American Association for Cancer Research and other cancer fighting agencies worldwide. The first risk factor is really smoking. Still, we estimate that 30% of all cancer deaths are related to smoking. And the second one that was identified in the last 10 years is obesity and diet. It's another 30%. The rest of the risk factor are between 2 and 5%. That includes alcohol, salt, UV light, hereditary factor, professional exposure, infection, perinatal factor, reproductive factor, medical procedures, and pollution. It's a small percentage. People are afraid of cancer because they think it's caused by stress, heredity, and pollution. All of these risk factors about 7%, while smoking, lack of exercise, and obesity and overexposure to UV is 70% increase in cancer deaths. So, we don't focus on the right enemy. I think it's important, if we want to fight an enemy, is to identify the enemy adequately first. So we should put a lot of focus on keep the fight on tobacco and keep the fight on obesity, because these are the two main risk factors at this point. In the last 40 years, very few cancer have increased dramatically in the population. Global death in cancer have increased, but it's because of the aging of the population. But globally, there are three cancers that have dramatically increased, and for these three cancers, we know the risk factor. One of them is lung cancer in women, because women have started smoking in the 60s and 70s, and now they are developing a lot more lung cancer than before. The second one is cancer of the esophageal carcinoma, and this is tightly associated with overweight. This is one factor that has increased in some area of the world by 400% in the last 30 years. And the third cancer that has increased in North America is skin cancer, melanoma, and the other type of skin cancer have increased dramatically because we don't protect ourselves enough from the UV light. So, there's not an explosion of cancer of unknown factors. For the cancer that have increased, we know that it's associated with defined risk factor.
Okay. And so now to take your metaphor of knowing our enemy in this war that we're in, you give some basic lifestyle and dietary recommendations. So I would call this our battle plan. So can you kind of go through our battle plan for dealing with or actually avoiding cancer?
Well, I think it's not my recommendation. By the way, it's the recommendation of the World Cancer Research Fund that have compiled 400,000 studies by a huge team of hundreds of scientists and physicians, and there are 10 recommendations that have been made. They include reducing alcohol, avoid a sedentary lifestyle, have a plant-based diet, like all the nutritionists say, 2/3 of your food plate for breakfast, for dinner, lunch, and dinner should be composed of plant product. Avoid excess weight and obesity. Maintain a body mass index between 21 and 23. The recommendation of the World Cancer Research Fund is 21 to 23. It is really lean. That's the first recommendation of the World Cancer Research Fund. Avoid processed food, junk food, which are associated with a high risk of a lot of metabolic disease. Reduce red meat to 1 pound a week, so that's much smaller than what is consumed globally in North America. Reduce salt, and do not use supplements to prevent cancer. These recommendations are the basic recommendation of the World Cancer Research Fund. The idea behind the lifestyle is that we have to understand that the cancer that appears in your lung, in your breast, in your prostate, in your brain when you're 50, 60, 70, 80, has not grown overnight. The research in the last 10 years have shown that most of the mutation that will give you a cancer over 50 years old are already in your tissues at the end of your childhood. Because of the incredible proliferation of cells during the development of the child and of the adolescent, there is a lot of mutation that occur, and these mutations will take decades to evolve into a clinically relevant cancer. What the lifestyle does globally is that it creates physiologically, metabolically hostile condition in your tissue to avoid these pre-cancerous cells that are dormant in your tissue to evolve into a clinically relevant cancer. We are all tumor carriers at the beginning of our adult lifestyle, and it is our lifestyle that allow or do not allow these microtumors to evolve into a clinically relevant cancer. So we have to understand this. It's very, very important. It's not, cancer is a chronic disease, just like type 2 diabetes and heart disease. It takes decades to evolve from the initial event to the clinical expression of the disease.
Okay, yeah. I mean, basically what we're saying is if you're living the right lifestyle choices, then you're giving your body what it needs to fight these things off and keep them down as long, because they're already there.
Exactly. So when you eat a lot of plant product, when you exercise, when you're not overweight. When you're overweight, obesity, the fat tissue is the main producer of inflammatory factor. Interleukin-6 and TNF-alpha are molecules produced by the adipose tissue that inflames your physiology, your body tissue. And inflammation is like the fundamental condition that the cancer cell need to grow, to evolve into clinically relevant cancer. Just the fact of being overweight creates the right condition, the bad condition for a cancer cell, the bad condition for you, the right condition for the cancer cell to grow and develop slowly over years. So when you take care of your health, when you exercise, when you stay lean and you eat a lot of plant products, you just are acting as a guerrilla warfare on your cancer cell and maintaining them in a state that they are not comfortable to grow, and you create a style condition for them to become big enough to be declared clinically relevant.
Cool. Now, in the book, you got into phytochemicals. And I just found this part of the book really, really fascinating because while I knew the term phytochemical, and I know, okay, well, I'm going to get that definitely from berries, but there's a lot of other sources of phytochemicals. And so can you kind of talk about what a phytochemical is and some of the sources we should be going to for our phytochemicals?
Yeah, I think you're hitting the right point. Phytochemicals, we need first to understand how do the animals defend themselves against their predators, their aggressor, by a fight or flight mechanism. This is why we have arms to fight or legs to run away from the danger. All animals behave according to a fight or flight mechanism. How do plants defend themselves against their predators? They have no legs to run, they have no arms to fight. They defend themselves not physically, they defend themselves chemically. The enzymes in the plant, the cells of the plant, produce tens of thousands of molecules, specific molecules, that makes insect, bacteria, virus, or plant-eating animals die or become noxious or have their saliva becomes very, very bitter when they eat the specific plant. The phytochemicals are the self-defense mechanism of plants against their predators. By pure serendipity of evolution, out of the tens of thousands of these phytochemicals, some of them have anti-cancer properties. It's by pure serendipity of evolution. Turmeric does not produce curcumin to help you reduce inflammation. It uses it as an insecticide to kill the insect that try to eat the plant. So basically, this is how it works. Research in the last 20 years have shown that when we look at population data, we know that people who eat cabbage, for example, have 50%, 3 portions of cabbage a week will have 50% less bladder cancer than people that do not eat cruciferous vegetable, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, and so on. People have looked at this family of vegetable, and they have identified specific molecules in these cabbage, broccoli, turnip, watercress, and so on. And these molecules are able to kill cancer cells when we do the right assay. So these, when you eat a diversity of plant products, you put in your bloodstream grams when you eat the 5 to 10 portions of fruits and vegetables a day that is recommended by all the health promoting agencies worldwide in all countries across the world. When you eat these 5 to 10 portions of fruits and vegetables, specifically some of them like cabbage, garlic, soy product, green tea, and berries, and so on, they have a very, very high concentration of specific molecule, thiocyanate and epigallocatechin gallate and lycopene, and very, very complex molecule. You put them in your bloodstream, they diffuse in your tissue, and they act, some of them by killing directly the cancer cell, some of them by reducing inflammation, some of them by blocking what we call angiogenesis, the development of blood vessels associated with tumor growth, and globally they act by reducing your probability of developing a clinically expressed cancer. You create this hostile environment. We call this in biochemistry or in physiology, in oncology, we call this paracrine regulation. Endocrine is hormones. Paracrine regulation is another type of regulation that we call a proximity regulation. So when you eat a lot of plant products, you create at the surrounding of the cancer cell the microtumors that we all have hidden in our breast and brain and the prostate and colon and so on. We create this hostile condition to block these microtumors from proliferating. This is basically what phytochemicals do.
Okay. Now, antioxidants and phytochemicals are not exactly the same thing.
Exactly.
So could you take a little bit of time to tell us what an antioxidant is and how it differs?
Yes, it's a very, very important question. Generally speaking, when you read, the non-scientific literature, people always talk about antioxidant. Oxidation is only one of the thousands of enzymatic reaction that occurs in cancer cells, every millisecond. So the right word is not antioxidant. A lot of these molecules that we're talking about have very, very low antioxidant activity, but they have very, very important anti-cancer activity. They have cytotoxic activity. They are immunostimulant. They are anti-inflammatory. They are anti-angiogenic. They act by different mechanisms than strictly an antioxidant activity. The term antioxidant is derived from the fact that the first evidence of the link between food and chronic disease was done in heart disease, where the oxidation of the LDL is an important factor in promoting the development of heart disease, and people have stick with this idea of antioxidant. But oxidation is not. It's important for for the great degradation of the DNA and membrane cell, but it's not the most important element in cancer development. It's one of the elements. So a lot of the activity that is found in these specific plant products are not linked with antioxidant activity. They are pro-apoptotic. They induce the cancer. This is basically when you receive chemotherapy during a treatment. A lot of the drugs that we give to you are essentially what we call pro-apoptotic. They induce the cancer cell to commit suicide. You induce the cancer cell not to survive to the drug that you're giving to it. You bring her to the state of killing itself. That this is how most of the drugs we give in the treatment are acting. And a lot of these phytochemicals, they act by inducing tumor death. Some of them act by inhibiting the tumor growth. Some of them are being cytotoxic. Some of them are being, as I said, anti-inflammatory. So there's a diversity, but a very, very few of this activity is associated with an antioxidant activity. It's not a key issue in cancer, the oxidation reduction status.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I see this book as like, this is great news. I mean, this is, the headline here is this, you are in control. I mean, 95% of what's going on in your body, you're controlling whether that cancer grows or dies. And, with the book and some of the other things, all the science that you've put together, kind of accumulated all the findings and what's out there, and put together basically a roadmap, an eating way. And, turmeric is delicious, and I like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and all of it. So, I mean, everything that was on that list, I'm like, yeah, I'm all for that. So, I just think I saw this book as just really good news to say, if you have that fear, and I think all of us kind of generally do, I don't, so many people are passing from cancer that I just think it's one of those things that it's just so visible, and most of us kind of have this innate fear that that's going to be what gets us in the end. So, again, Doctor, I really appreciate the opportunity to read the book and an opportunity to talk to you. If you wanted me to send my listeners somewhere to learn more about the book, to learn more about what you're doing, your speaking and your writings, where would you like for me to send them?
We have if you type my name, Richard Beliveau, in Google, the first, in the search engine, the first site that will appear is richardbeliveau.org. And on this site, we have, I've written 500 articles in the newspaper in Canada in the last 10 years. All of the articles are in English on the site. They all talk about the prevention of chronic disease, most of them on cancer. We have a site where we explain the type of research we're doing. We do research on the treatment of cancer and research on the prevention of cancer. So this site is a way of getting additional information complementary to what we have put in the book. The book is really like a point in time where we present what is available in terms of knowledge for the reduction of cancer risk by adding very small change in our daily life that allow us to get a better control in reducing our probability of developing cancer. It's a reduction of the risk factor. I think it's important to know that some studies now are appearing. We have put this in the book for the Mediterranean diet, for example. The data have been published recently. It shows for breast cancer a 70% reduction. This is a randomized prospective study, so nothing is more solid on the epidemiological basis, and it's adoption of the Mediterranean diet with extra virgin olive oil is a 70% reduction of cancer risk. So the food has really an important, not on all cancer, but on some, the big killer, colorectal, breast, and prostate, and other types of cancer, it has a major impact on the reduction of the risk. We can do a lot to help us fight this disease. We just have, to take our motivation and integrate that in our daily life. We can reduce our individual probability of developing cancer.
Yeah, and I think that's the important. Prevention really is the better answer here than treatment after the fact. And the book gives you a very good baseline, and obviously your website's going to be a great resource for someone that wants to learn what's going on as it develops. Again, thank you so much, Dr. Beliveau, for being on the show. This is going to be episode 256, so I'll make sure the links to all this are on the show notes page at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/256. So again, thank you so much, Doctor. Appreciate having you here.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too. If you enjoyed this episode, would you do me a big favor and go out to whichever podcast site you're using to listen to this and give us a rating and review. I really do appreciate reading each and every one of those. I actually have a service that emails them to me, and it really does, kind of bolster me, make me feel a lot better about what I'm accomplishing here with you as I see those ratings and reviews. And it also helps me know if there's something I could be doing better. So again, if you could go out to iTunes, to Stitcher, wherever you're listening to this, and leave us a rating and review, I'd really, really appreciate it. Next time on the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, we meet Susan Levy and discuss her book, Your Aging Body Can Talk. Until then, have a happy and healthy day.